So, these are celebrities, right? I'd really want to celebrate more. The list is long. Um, the hoteliers themselves have sent this list, but I would want to bring in more. Maybe I may bring in more soon, but I'll get back to you. I've forgotten a few PR heads as I am clumsy. My gray beard would tell you I'm getting old. I'm getting fairly old. Uh, Anjali Mehra, Nidhi from Leela, uh, Divya Agha, uh, uh, Aradhana Lal, Akriti, Manisha Sharma from Sarovar, Ranjita Shaw. I mean, there are a whole lot of them. So, thank you, girls. Thank you, gentlemen, for supporting us. This show wouldn't have been possible without you, beautiful girls and boys. Right? Do well. Stay blessed. Let's move on to the next. Uh, our next show is another wonderful favorite of mine. These are these are the doins of the hospitality industry. Each one, bring that screen back. Each one of them is a gem, is a star. Bring that screen back, Kunal. So they're, led by Dilip Puri. There is Rajiv Kaul. There is Anil Bhandari. There is Suresh Kumar, Farhat Jamal, Shantha de Silva. He logs in all the way from Sydney. There is Rahul Pandit. There is Bhandari Saab. There is Veer Vijay Singh. ये आप लोगों ने कब नाम देखे, कब नाम सुने? आप इन लोगों को जानो और पहचानो कि ये वो खंबे हैं, वो पिलर हैं, वो स्तंभ हैं जिन पे ये इंडस्ट्री कायम हुई है. These are very tall names, These are such tall names. They're such tall leaders. Hear them. I don't want to take much more of your time. Let's bring in this show, my favorite show. Bring them in. Hi Dilip. Hi Rajiv.
Morning.
Shantha, Suresh sir, Farhat.
Hi Bhuvnesh. Good morning.
How are you?
Very well.
Who all remain? I don't see Mr. Bhandari there yet. There.
I think we are missing Veer Vijay. Mr. Bhandari is just joined.
Veeru will be coming in. So Shantha comes in all the way from Sydney. Shantha, what time in the world is there?
Not too bad. It's just 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock. All right. Not too bad.
Yeah.
So let me figure out what's happening with Veer Vijay.
In the interest of time, Bhuvnesh, should we start? And as he joins in.
We should.
Okay. Good morning, audience, wherever you are logging in from and whichever channel you're on. Thank you, Bhuvnesh, on behalf of the entire panel for having us on this session.
Thank you to you all.
Interestingly, we have had a session with this group before, so we're quite familiar about some of the things we want to talk about, but equally, we're very familiar with each other. And I'm going to quickly get into introducing each panelist just by their name and their former titles to give you a context of anybody in the audience, a few that maybe who don't know who these esteemed gentlemen are. So let me start with Mr. Anil Bhandari, former Chairman and Managing Director of ITDC. Mr. Suresh Kumar, the former President of Fortune Hotels and a veteran of ITC Hotels. Mr. Rajiv Kaul, former President of Leela Hotels, Resorts and Palaces. Veer Vijay Singh, who's absolutely come in right on time and perhaps has his dog barking too.
I'll take care of that.
If a dog is barking, it's got to be Veer Vijay Singh.
So Viru is a veteran of Taj Hotels, former chief operating officer with IHCL. Shantha Kumar, former head for IHG for Southwest Asia, now based in Sydney. And Rahul Pandit, former president of Lemon Tree Hotels. The reason I introduce these gentlemen with their former titles is to give a context of perhaps the depth of the experience that they all bring to the discussion today. Um, if you may think of it in a way where perhaps they have a ringside view today of what's really happening in the trenches as our industry confronts this crisis and this pandemic. And while not being in the trenches, I think what it gives the perspective is you can see outside in. Many of our colleagues and peers who are fighting this battle in the trenches are in it and are seeing out. But I think this panel will have an amazing perspective of when you look at things for our industry, use the hindsight of your experiences, and then truly be able to advise counsel and what perhaps is going to be happening in the future, which would be of benefit to key stakeholders, which we'll address in the session, owners of hotels, leadership groups in hotels, guests of hotels, and of course, most importantly, the associates of hotels. I'm going to start straight away into the Q&A because we want to get as much time with each of these gentlemen. So I'm going to start with Rajiv Kaul, if I may, Rajiv. You've often spoken about, from the beginning of this crisis in conversations, what has changed, what is continuing to change, what will remain constant, what will be new. Perhaps from the perspective of a luxury hotelier or broadly, generically for the industry, can you reflect on that? That what have you seen already change, continuing to change, remain changed, and what kind of things can the audience look forward to in terms of hotels, luxury hotels, or broadly hotels?
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Dilip. Delighted to be here. Bhuvnesh, congratulations on this mega show.
Thank you, sir.
Much has already been discussed about the pandemic, so today we hope to discuss and look at different dimensions. We all know that this is a different crisis from anything else that the industry has experienced. Business has been demolished. In fact, we have a zero revenue situation for over 150 days, and break even is still months away. So, rooms, food and beverage, minor departments, MICE, everything, all revenue streams have been, closed, shut down. And what has changed? I mean, we all know it's a new era of social distancing, where cleanliness and sanitation is center stage. In fact, I was reading somewhere that Accenture said that every business today is really in the health business, because it either enhances or diminishes health. Food and beverage today, to the extent that it is there, dining is more functional than experiential. The emphasis is on contactless, or on, shall we say, distanced service, frictionless payment. So this is where we are today, which means that we need to survive. That's the first stage. You need to survive. So protect the business. As leader of the business, you have to protect your business. You have to conserve your cash flow, manage your liquidity, eliminate expenses. That's what you need to do. And once we get past this particular stage, then hopefully we will enter, the revival stage, where business will resume. Domestic business will start with domestic business, start with, drive to destinations rather than fly to destinations. So that's what we are witnessing right now. The jury is out whether we are going to have a revival which is U-shape, V-shape, W-shape, But for sure, it's going to be subdued. Demand will be subdued till the vaccine comes. So what is today the real role of a leader, and let's say a CEO of a company? He is essentially today a chief calibrator. He's calibrating the extent of change that is needed in the business model. Because we are making several assumptions about guest behavior, guest preferences, which are yet to be validated. Just to give an example, QR codes and contactless dining and various other things are being tried out. Now, in the luxury hotels, or let's say even in the upscale hotels, the feedback that's coming in is that a few guests may want it, but there are more guests who do not, simply because they feel that they trust the brand. And that's what it's all about, that they feel that, if there is trust in the brand, then they would continue to have an experience. So this is just one viewpoint. I think that many assumptions that we are making and changes that we are making, it's simply a work in progress. We will have to continue to tweak this as we go along. So we should be ready for this and keep an open mind, because ultimately we are all concerned with the safety of our staff and the safety of the guest. However, the guest makes the rules. So we have to remember that. All right. Now, what will not change? I'm only jumping into a few things which we've been hearing so much about technology. And, technology is omnipresent. Yes, the hotel industry has always been very slow to adopt technology. We have been slow to embrace change. But technology will always remain an enabler. We are a people business. That's not going away. So, this excessive hype that we have about technology, our business will remain people-centric. That we must remain, and technology will remain only an enabler. Likewise for, contactless service, etc. As I've already shared with you, that there are mixed feedback that's coming from the guest. I think clearly there would be opportunities for perhaps at the lower end of the hotel spectrum. There may be some automation that may come in from a long time perspective. But by and large, after the vaccine, I don't see too many changes happening in the experiential side of the business. I think that will be true. If there is a contact, it must add value. Today we do have a number of contacts, guest contacts, where you can argue whether it's truly added, whether it's an intrusion or it has been contributed to the experience. So I think those elements will definitely be looking in. Food and beverage is one area which will definitely have to be revisited. Clearly, it has to be experiential, but there will be some changes which we can expect. Buffets and other areas, breakfast. I think in-room dining will make a big comeback, and the romance of in-room dining. What many of us, when we started out 30, 40 years ago, in-room dining manager used to be the number one in the food and beverage hierarchy, and today he's right at the bottom. So I think the circle is going to turn back again.
Okay.
Work from home is something which we have resisted for long. I mean, it's amazing how India has been the center for BPO for the world, but we will not have our back offices off-site. We'll continue to have everything on-site. So I think that's clearly something which is going to happen. There's been a lot of discussion about ancillary revenues, etc. Today, when you have no revenues at all, so ancillary revenues look very big and very significant. But I think the litmus test for that is going to be whether they are scalable. If they are scalable and they can assume a significant proportion, then it's worth it. And I think for the upscale and the luxury, the issue is going to be that is it in any way distracting you from your key competence? Because that should not happen. You have to remain focused on your key competences. That's really. Of course, we have to be agile. We have to be innovative. But this storm will be over. Whether it lasts for 6 months, 9 months, 18 months, we can only pray that it is shorter rather than it's longer. But the storm will be over. The sun will shine. And I think as leaders, the leaders should be asking themselves, what is going to be your competitive position once the sun is shining? Are you, compared to your competitor, are you running faster than him or are you trailing behind? So I think that we need to keep an eye not just on today, but clearly keep an eye on tomorrow and the day after. And
Okay.
do not get tempted to eschew short-term gains for long-term losses. That would
Okay.
be my comment, Dilip.
Interesting. Really, this F&B becoming transactional and experiential is a challenge. Yes, Bhuvnesh?
One or two hygiene points. Veer, you need to check your volume. Farhat, you need to increase your volume. Suresh, sir, your lighting is very low.
Hello, can you hear me?
Please.
Yeah. We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. Is it on?
Yeah, you can't hear us. You've just messaged. So just enter.
Okay, can we continue?
Yes, please. Sorry,
Okay.
apologies.
So I'm going to move to Rahul next, and Rahul is someone I would describe as the quintessential professor hotelier. His views are always very thought out, very deeply researched, with some very strong logic in them. And recently, Rahul, I read about you're articulating the point about how a $1 trillion tourism economy can fuel global GDP in really, really exponential ways. So perhaps you can share with the audience some of your thoughts on that issue, because it is very topical, that what can travel, tourism, hospitality really do now.
Thank you, Dilip, Bhuvnesh, BW, and all the audience who've logged in. India's asking run rate, Dilip, today is to provide 1 million jobs every month over the next decade. If we do not enable employment creation, then our demographic dividend is going to become a demographic disaster. Tourism has the potential to contribute 20% to employment and $1 trillion to GDP, providing a sustainable job stream. The fact that tourism generates more jobs than auto, technology, or financial services per dollar invested make it a strategic choice for attracting FDI. India also stands to benefit from a China plus one strategy being deliberated by most nations today. This tailwind, strong domestic consumption, and a low interest regime will accelerate India's push to become a $5 trillion economy. However, last mile availability of high quality, cost effective, safe lodging can really short circuit this ambition. So, what are the structural changes that we need to do to drive this growth? Two critical items. First is to establish tourism as a concurrent list subject to position it as a priority economic pillar. The second is to establish an exclusive cabinet committee on tourism led by the Prime Minister, with decision makers co-opted from the concerned ministries, industry, and civil society. So if we have this structure, what should this structure be focusing on? So I will just highlight three critical items. First is infrastructure status. No dominant economy today exists without strong supporting hospitality infrastructure. US with its 5 million motel and hotel rooms is an example. Similarly, China's integrated infrastructure drive from the 90s has ensured that today the hotel inventory in just Beijing and Shanghai exceeds the total branded hotel supply in India. Tourism in India needs infrastructure status to enable access to funds at a lower cost, longer tenure, and enhanced limits. And given today's situation, existing debt also needs a one-time restructuring using these provisions to protect businesses and jobs. And the Indian government has a precedent. The government took a bold decision in 2017, granting infrastructure to warehousing above 25 crores. The result was a multi-billion-dollar FDI inflow with the likes of Ascendas, Blackstone, CPPIB, ESR, Everstone, Logos, Warburg Pincus, creating multiple platforms. And the result has been that warehousing, which was just 100 million square feet in 2015, is 215 million square feet today, and it is on its way to reach 320 million square feet 3 years down the line, i.e. in 2023. Similarly, extending infrastructure status to a 20 crore investment threshold for development of hotels, transit infrastructure, capability building, and destination development would attract massive FDI and global institutional capital into our tourism sector. The second item is to have pragmatic development norms. We know that the cost of land in hotel projects in India is 40 to 60% of the total project value versus 15 to 25% in US and 10 to 20 in China. Additionally, our current development norms require us to provide for parking spaces which are 10 times higher than those in US or even Singapore. Given today's Uber customers, hotels in India today waste 12 to 15% capital building basements and stuffing them with mechanized car parks. So, grant of higher FARs and rationalized parking norms would substantially reduce the cost of investments, making them economically viable. And the last but not the least is to improve the ease of doing business environment. As an example, a developer needs 26 approvals to start a hotel project in Singapore. In India, depending on the state, one needs anywhere from 80 to 110. So the Cabinet Committee on Tourism has to facilitate creation of an online platform for single window submission, tracking, and time-bound approvals, making the entire regulatory process seamless. It also needs to create a self-certification mechanism for renewals and migrate physical verifications to a 3-year frequency. So if we think through this structural development agenda and enable tourism to come onto the concurrent list and have the PM guide the Cabinet Committee on Tourism, not only can we attract massive FDI to accelerate the country's economic recovery, but also unleash tourism's potential to contribute $1 trillion to our GDP and 20% to employment, providing India a very sustainable jobs stream.
Wow. So I told you, members of the audience, that was a really great lesson in tourism economics. I think, Rahul, you should be like the economic advisor to the tourism ministry, but amazingly articulated. And interestingly, when you said ease of doing business, in the opening address on the first day, Amitabh Kant made reference to doing it for the restaurant industry. He says, you know, how quickly can we do things online for you? If that could kind of apply to the larger hospitality industry, it would. Let's move on to Anil Bhandari. Anil, I know that over the course of your career, you've worked as part of ownership groups, management companies, you advise and consult owners and management companies, and I know you have some really strong views on what impact is going to happen from owners or operators in this pandemic and after. So your views, please. I think your sound is not on.
Is that okay? Can you hear me?
Yeah. Anil, your voice is again gone.
Is it okay?
Yes, we heard you. Yes,
Hello?
go ahead.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I said, okay, let's repeat again. Thank you, Dilip. thanks Bhuvnesh and his team for doing an excellent job of conducting all these webinars. We all are getting very knowledgeable. We are getting enriched with the knowledge which is being shared in the industry. And I'm sure there are a lot of good and great ideas will come up. It was really heartening to listen to Rahul Pandit, what he has been saying. This has been the word for last so many years. I am reminded of my old colleagues, Mr. Inder Sharma and Gautam Khanna. We all used to go together and speak to the government in the same voice, that it is time that government should not be managing this tourism business, rather create a tourism board, which should be managed by professionals so that tourism could subtly develop in this country. Okay, friends, now I'll go back up to the subject, what has been asked. What lies ahead of the owners and management companies? Most of my answers can be summarized within 4 words: continuity, calibration, consolidation, and collaboration. Continuity. Hospitality is and has always been a dynamic industry. It is constantly reinventing itself to adapt to the customers' cultural and business needs. I do not mean that in a sense of rewriting history, but of bettering it. This time is no different. Hospitality shall continue to grow. Yes, the future of the industry is unpredictable. What lies ahead of us? A lot of uncertainty. Needless to mention, we had all have to and shall continue to have to adapt to a lot of new ways of thinking and working. But then, this is what continuity is all about. The new normal seems to shift every day. Much has happened in the past 6 months. First, there was a total shutdown of the hotel, while some hotels were operating and catering to the doctors, catering to the quarantine passengers, as well as to the health professionals. Owners and management companies had to adopt quickly to all these norms. Overnight, had to rethink operational procedures and safety of the guest and the staff. It is so evolving, this pandemic so evolving, you don't know what to do at certain times. Recent in a case, it happened in one of the hotels where 5 members of the staff found to be positive, corona positive. And they had to change the entire staff overnight. 100 members of the staff was overchanged. So you have to evolve. So we have to keep on changing with the time. It is such a difficult task. So friends, the survival of this business is linked to their revival. A lot of businesses are still finding it difficult to open. This issue key concerns over finances, manpower, sanitization, operationalization, and commissioning of systems, vendor suppliers, all have become critical to revival. It does not help that the guests are yet to come. Owners and management companies will not only have to follow stringent SOPs and training for safety, hygiene, and social distancing, but also allocate resources towards confidence building measures, renewed marketing and communication for customers. This is all for continuity. So friend, I'll move to the next, the calibration. Calibrated reopening and commissioning of assets aligned with the demand and the finances. Starting up with the plant and machinery would need special attention. Where possible, this should be aligned with the demand and the occupancy. Calibrated SOPs would need to be put into place to ensure that the stricter hygiene levels are addressed. New sanitization protocols are developed and adequate monitoring of such procedures is undertaken. This is essential to instill confidence in the guest as well as the hotel staff. Calibrated manpower, owners and management companies need to aware and sensitize the concern of their human resource. Empathy and understanding will be great importance. Management companies in particular will have to create a better understanding of their multi-skilling and training of personnel is required. Incorporating technology and processes to ensure a contactless experience, as said by Rajiv Kaul, for guests as far as possible will be at the forefront. Check-in and check-out contactless menus are only the basics. One must also ensure that the hotels do not start looking like hospitals. While keeping a close eye on hygiene and safety, they would also need to take care to bring life back into the properties. How to ensure warmth and make guests feel welcome when they even cannot see your smile. Body language and attentiveness will be the most important than ever before. It comes to the next: consolidation. Market dynamics are shifting rapidly. The greatest battle for owners and management companies is going to be financial management to ensure sustainability. This will require a deeper understanding of where money is going. This is very important to ensure effective marketing strategies, better vendor management, unlocking new revenue generating avenues, plugging leakages, basically identify and get rid of all fat. Never has been more important for all of us to be agile, nimble, focused, driven, and keep pivoting. Collaboration. In times of adversity, collaboration is the mantra. This includes not only the collaboration between management companies and the owners, but also the staff, vendors, and most importantly, the government of India. Whether they realize it or not, they are the key stakeholders in this process. They are part of our story and they would need to play a very active and vital role in our revival. I repeat that. The government has to play a very, very active role in the revival of our institutions. A lot of you have already heard the need for incentives and support from government, but we would all have to rally together to persuade them to intervene and to also on an ongoing basis. I cannot emphasize enough that we can only thrive once we learn to work together as a team. This industry is built on partnerships. And going forward, all stakeholders in these partnerships are going to have to play their individual roles. The ones who are flexible and understanding to the others' needs will survive, others will not. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Okay, very wise words, Anil. Thank you for those. I think it was particularly interesting when you said hotels should not begin to look like hospitals. Before COVID, hospitals used to come to hotels, right? Ki, how can we improve our F&B and our services? Today, hotels are going to hospitals. So often what goes around comes around. I'm going to move to Shantha next. And Shantha, you've often spoken about two parts. One about the whole concept of trust in these times, and then you've spoken about, the critical need for how technology and innovation will drive how we deal with this pandemic. And you've obviously got the experience of what's happening in Australia and perhaps in other parts of the world. So how would you react to using the concepts of trust or technology innovation in suggesting what happens in the future?
Thanks, Dilip. Firstly, Bhuvanesh, thank you for putting this together and thank you for the opportunity. Really good setup. So thank you for that. And always love to connect with India, my favorite place in the world. Brings back great memories. So thank you for giving me that opportunity. I think it's no secret that we are in very challenging times. And the bigger challenge is we don't know where it's going and we don't know when it's going to end. And we know, as they say, we are in a VUCA world. So the other day, thanks to the pandemic, I had the opportunity to listen to Jim Collins, the author of Good to Great, live, because they were doing it virtually. And he said something really interesting. He said, everybody's talking about a new normal. And he said, there's not going to be a new normal. What is going to happen is there's going to be a new not normal that will need to continue to be able to face uncertainty, volatility, ambiguity, and challenges, that there will be more changes coming. So it is up to us to be ready for an uncertain world going forward, rather than a new normal, a world that is not normal. And I think that's the challenge for us as leaders. And when I thought about that, there were a couple of things that I felt has helped me in the past, is helping me now, and will also help me going forward in reacting to situations like this, but also thriving on situations like this and facing the future with confidence. So the first thing is trust. I think we all know hospitality is such a people-driven industry that trust factor with all the people is critically important, because without trust, you can't achieve much. So when it comes to associates, I think we need to build trust with them. We need to be there for them because all three stakeholder groups have differing needs today, whether it's social, whether it's emotional, whether it's psychological or financial. So I think it's important as leaders for us to be there for them, to be able to listen to them. But more importantly, I think we need to communicate with them, because if they don't know, that creates a lot of uncertainty and breaks trust. So I think it's okay to be vulnerable with them. It's okay to be open and honest. We navigate this journey together and we don't know all the answers, and that's fine. So I think the trust factor with associates is critical to success. Secondly, I think we all know trust factor with owners is a must for success in our business. So how do we react in situations like this? I think different owners will have different needs. Some of them, the hotel will maybe their own only business. Some of them it will be part of a larger business. So I think we need to be flexible enough to accommodate their needs and try and help them through the journey to survive this. I think the best approach for that for me is running the business as if though it was my own, using the money as if though it was my own money, and making decisions like I would make for myself. That way, I know that I will handle the business in the best way possible. And I know that will help us build trust with our owners even stronger than before. Because in a situation like this, there's a lot of panic. And that constant communication with the owners, involving them in the change we are going through, and building trust through the actions we take is critically important. And the last stakeholder group on trust, obviously, is a very important stakeholder group as well, which is our guests. I mean, we all hear about hygiene and safety. There were a couple of references made to hygiene and safety. It is absolutely critically important, and I don't belittle the point. But it comes to a stage that it will become the normal. That is the normal that's expected from hotels. Like when you walk into a hospital, you expect certain standards of hygiene. And I see kind of a me too. Everybody is jumping on the bandwagon, but we can't forget that our customer profiles are changing. The travelers today are not the same travelers before. Before we had more international travelers, now it's domestic. Before we had more business travelers, we are likely to have more leisure travelers. But interestingly, research shows that the people who are traveling now tend to belong to a younger age group than the people who used to travel before the pandemic. So that means we need to talk to the customer in their language, in the way they understand, using the tools they use. So I think in that sense, we need to start building trust with this new demographic group if we are to thrive in this situation. And we know by building trust, we can build loyalty with our guests. And we all know that loyal guests obviously stay more with us, they spend more with us. And especially in today's digital world, they actually say more digitally. So I think it's important that we start building trust anew with this new customer segment, because we can't depend on our rest on our laurels. That's for trust. And the second one for me was touch or innovation, because we all know hospitality is a high touch industry traditionally. And we need to retain that sense of touch, but reduce the physical touch factors for the safety and the hygiene of our guests and our associates alike. So the second priority for me after trust would be innovation. How do we innovate our business for the future? I think a pandemic gives us an ideal breeding ground for innovation, because everything is up in the air. Nothing is normal, and people are open to trying new things. People are open for change. There will be no resistance from management or team members, because there's nothing to resist. There won't be impact on the business because our business levels are not at the levels they were before. So we can take time to practice innovation and introduce innovation. So I think a pandemic is an ideal breeding ground, and we need to take advantage to innovate our business for the future. And people are willing to accept change at this time, because sometimes the change might merely mean that it's survival. So I think in that sense, for me, the second priority would be innovation. And what I would challenge myself to do is, we know there's so much of change around us in the industry, in the economy, in the countries, in the healthcare, whatever you look at. But is our internal change and our business change keeping pace with the same pace of change? Or are we lagging behind? Or are we changing at a slower pace? And lastly, Dilip, it's technology. Rajiv quite rightly said, I think technology is an enabler. It will not replace our business, because we are a people business. But I think there's opportunity for us to use technology, and we know we are all looked at as laggards in the hospitality industry when it comes to technology. This is an ideal opportunity for us to be adapting new ways and technologies so that it will help position our business not for today, not for tomorrow, but for the long term. And I think in this, again, it applies to all three stakeholder groups. With the associates, I think there's a huge learning curve. We need to also get their buy-in and participation in technology so that we get the maximum impact and output of the technology. But also, I think we have a responsibility to prepare them for embracing technology, because that's going to be a norm in the future within the industry or outside. So that I think it's a social responsibility we have. And with the owners, I think we need to get them on the technology bandwagon. I know costs and investments are not great, or not the right time sometimes to get it. But I think there's an opportunity for us to think differently of how we can fund those technological changes, but also focus on the returns and right-sizing the business for the future. And lastly, with the guests, I think it's a very important factor because, like I said, the demographics of the guests are changing. So we need to talk to them in their language. So we need to use technology when we attract them, when they stay, and to engage them post-stay. And that is going to be a more important factor. So those three, Dilip, would be the priorities for me. And that, I would say, are things that would help us to thrive and get better through this pandemic.
It's very interesting when Rajiv said technology is an enabler, you are reaffirming it. I think, in my own view, technology has to be used to personalize experiences more. What we thought and expected that only humans can do, the fact that we are more contactless and touchless, we're simply not able to use that. But technology's ability to personalize your guest experiences, I think that's what has to be thought about in the future. It's always an enabler. But people think that technology keeps you away from your customers. You don't know. I think technology's adaptation is how much more personalized you can become towards what your customers will expect in the future. Let me move on to Farhat. And I think, Farhat, in our conversations, you've clearly believed that the hotel model is truly ready for disruption, is right in the middle of being disrupted, and how value now can be created not just on your premises, but even off. So on that, how you see this business model?
Thank you, Dilip. Good morning, everybody. Congratulations again, Bhuvnesh, for this amazing show. It's been a treat to the industry, actually, not just us, to the industry. So Dilip, just to answer your question, I think, firstly, it's a very, very good question. If you look at disruption, I think everybody, when you talk of disruption, gets very worried. Word disruption itself is very worrisome for people. So, what is you're talking about disruption mean? It's going to take away our business, it's going to destroy the current, so to say, the way we do things. But I believe that disruption, if you go back to years and years, it's nothing but innovation. It is about creating markets, value network. And the father of disruption, the one who coined disruption, a gentleman called Clayton Christensen in the US, way back in '95. And that word disruption, when he coined, is possibly the most influential idea of the 21st century. Most influential idea of the 21st century. And from there on, it has been no stopping, whether it has been written on technology, whether it is written on new ideas, largely on technology. But the fact is that, from the horse carts to the famous, what you call the Ford Model T, to Uber, Amazon, the electric car. I mean, the list is endless, actually, the way disruption is taking place. But those who have companies that have actually not recognized disruption coming through to them, they have actually lost ground and they have actually become redundant. Sadly, they've gone out of business. I'm not saying that the hospitality will ever happen, something like this will happen to the hospitality industry. But certainly, what is going to happen is that I'm going to speak first part of my talk is going to be alternative accommodation. We'll come to technology afterwards. What is happening in the alternative accommodation space? If you look at the Booking.com figures, and I was looking at them a few days ago, 880,000 listings in India, all right? Out of which, how many are for alternative accommodations? 140,000 and growing. 140,000 crore. And year on year, the supply is 68% growth, which means more and more people are actually coming into the alternative accommodation space. And I have to say one brilliant thing that I saw, one company at least, I excuse my saying that it is the ISCL with their Emma Trails, which is basically, taking homes and, heritage homes and various kinds of villas, etc., and converting them into experiences. It's a brilliant idea. So homestays, hostels, villas, cabins, boats, etc. These are all alternative accommodation. And largely in India, if I may say, it's Goa, Karnataka, and what you call Kerala. These are the three states which are driving it, actually. And globally today, the Booking.com numbers say that 40% of their customers are actually looking for alternative accommodation, which means they're not looking for hotels, the traditional hotel. They're looking for alternative accommodations. If it's global, for their business is gone 2.8 billion, and about 20% of its revenue now is coming from alternative accommodation. And the second part to the alternative accommodation is, you all know the success of Airbnb, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this because everybody knows this model. But everybody seems to live with like an ostrich in this because it's there, and let's put a hat in the sand and not recognize the power of Airbnb. Forget about this last year when they've been struggling. The industry has been struggling. So, but imagine a valuation of the company in 2008 to 2020 is at 35 billion. It was 38 billion last year. And today they have approximately 7 million properties around, 100,000 cities, and growing and counting, actually. And what does the team consist of, the 15,000 people? Data scientists, engineers, and developers. Yeah. And it's a very open concept, the office, etc. I'm not going to spend time on that. But I'm just trying to say is the stay at the Airbnb today is 2.4 times longer than a traditional hotel stay. So they are making money from there. And they have a business model which is very attractive. So most people kind of sign up for Airbnb. And every night, Dilip, 2 million people stay in Airbnbs. 2 million people stay in Airbnbs. So I'm saying this is a disruption that is happening for our industry, and we should be watchful of that. Instead of ignoring it, we should be watchful. How far it can go? Can it go to 30%, 40% of the share? We are losing it. My own friends, and I'm sure many of your friends actually, and a whole bunch of guys that we have on this talk, I know of 3 of them in the last 1 year before the pandemic, all stayed in Airbnbs. These were all 5-star hotel users. All stayed in Airbnb in Italy, in London, in New York, in Frisco, all stayed in Airbnbs. Why? I'm not so sure. They're families of 4 and families of 6. They all stayed, this is a beautiful stay, fantastic experience, no glitches of any kind. And we come back and spend the night here, and the rest of it is very centrally located, and a beautiful host, lovely hosts that they had. So I think this is the power of alternative accommodation. And now I'm going to come to technology. I think one of the key things as far as technology is concerned is the fact that
Sorry, Farhat. I couldn't help but interrupt. I thought you were being sponsored by Airbnb.
I'm talking about, excuse my saying this, I'm not sponsored by Airbnb.
Go ahead.
So, Brian Chesky will be very happy to hear me. So, but the fact is that today, I think when we talk of technology, I think the fact that the industry has actually, what even Shantha said, and in fact, even Rajiv said earlier, is that we have not been proactive in embracing technology, not fast enough to embrace technology. We are addressing the present, we're moving with the flow, but not investing enough in technology. Today, I think there are just a few thoughts that I have. I'm going to be very brief in this because technology can take a lot of time. For example, the cloud today is going to future-proof platforms with smart and flexible systems. As you said, actually, the rise of personalization and customization is going to come through the cloud. Today, our data is fragmented, Dilip. Ladies and gentlemen, it is fragmented. There is absolutely so difficult to get data combined together of seeking people's choice. You come and stay at a hotel, you still say you are the first time you're staying here. It's fragmented. So what is the cloud going to do is it's going to enable us to solve data fragmenting and consolidate technologies together through an open platform. By unifying systems, hoteliers will be able to understand the guest profile and preferences across all touch points, which is extremely, extremely important. Number two, technology used as foster information, really, information connection. Right? So the thought of the robos and butlers, robots, I think those are a bit far-fetched, and don't think so they will come in a hurry. And that model doesn't apply to many of the kind of properties that the hospitality industry operates. But the fact remains that hoteliers should be focusing on keeping the service human. And I will always say that the human touch should never go. But how do we use technology that can assist our own workforce to be more flexible, to be more efficient, to be more efficient. Technology to be used to bring in efficiency. The other thing is artificial intelligence and smart rooms. I thought we talk about this a lot, but not much is always done on this. Artificial intelligence and smart rooms are the trend that is being adopted today, not by many hotels, and to create experiences that are more personable, memorable. Use AI, guests that are able to voice commands in order to room service, curtains, etc. Just by voice command, etc. And Amazon has come back with Alexa for hospitality. They've launched already. So that is another intervention that has come in. I have my experience that when you go on a website to book hotels, and this is again disruption I'm talking about, most of the time there are pictures on the website. We are still not using 3D, VR, and AR technologies at all. The virtual reality, augmented reality is still not being used by many hotel companies. And I think for a customer to be able to go through that is fantastic. You're able to go through the entire experience. And last but not the least is the mobile usage. The usage of mobile that is going up, and Booking.com themselves, the last research, it says about 40% is the global usage of mobile. In India, it's about 60%. So you can imagine the usage, the technology that's actually coming in, and how many customers are using mobile to make bookings at the hotel. So that's in brief as far as technology and alternative accommodation is concerned, and that's where the disruption is going to come from.
Fantastic. We are wanting to have a lot of more questions asked, so let's try and hurry this up. And let me move to Veeru. Veeru, you've more often than not talked about people, associates. Your clear focus is on what's happening there. Share with us, and you've got a perspective now, Rajasthan, before that in Hyderabad. So from the people, associates perspective, and even the other stakeholders' perspective, your reactions to what's going to happen in the future. Your voice, you need to unmute.
No, here it is. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Dilip. Namaskar, good morning, and thank you, Bhuvnesh, for a great initiative. Let me go straight to the topic. Yes, for me personally, people is, I think, the most important thing for the industry. The hotel industry, as you know, is a people's industry, and it has a very large diaspora, covers many different groups of people who are involved with the industry. So I will not take time explaining everyone, but yes, to the first and most important, of course, is the guest. The guests today are having a major scare. When can they visit the hotels? Is it the right time to visit? Are they safe? Are they following the proper hygiene standards? Also, there are many cumbersome procedures. Some places you need to have a permit to go to hill stations. Travel has become a major concern. Would you be checked at the airport? Would you need to be quarantined, and so on and so forth? So that's become a very major concern for them. What will happen in the future? Yes, there is going to be limited service. But the good point would be at this time would be there would be a lot of discounts and special packages that will be coming in. For vendors and contractors, they have got the benefit which the government has given them as MSMEs, and which is very good for them. Unfortunately, it doesn't come to all the hotel industry, but they can get this benefit, so they need to rejoice there. But yes, we will see a reduction in business, and they must follow the new norms Otherwise, in terms of safety, otherwise it will become a concern and they will not be selected. For owners, yes, there is major financial pressures. Business is not there. The P&L is a major concern, especially if they have taken loans, then lease payments and EMIs are concerned. So that's major. Fixed costs are not going to go away. Fuel, power and light, payrolls, and so on and so forth. So I think for them, the main suggestion would be to see that they maintain their cash flows as far as possible. Also work with management and professionals closely, as sometimes they don't need to be taking certain decisions without getting professional help. I think the main concern, and when I talk about people, as you mentioned that, for me, the main concerns are the associates. And I think the Indian hospitality is a very traditional hospitality, which treats guests as God. And this is always done by constant service with humility and many, many moments of truth. Now, this is going to be surely, and this is, of course, delivered by our associates. Now, this pillar is going to be shaken. And I think that's where the whole concern is. Staff, associates are losing jobs. Salaries have been reduced. Many of them are not being paid regularly. The future is not clear. You run a wonderful institute, and I think students are going to be surely very concerned that what will they get jobs this year if they are passing out. Medical concerns are major. So I think my suggestions and going forward to the associates especially, which I would like to talk about, is that we as owners or management or professionals need to give confidence by having regular touch with our associates. It could be through town hall, it could be through webinar, it could be anyhow, but that's very, very important because sometimes they don't know what's happening. We need to ensure that they get some part of the remuneration, especially those who are in junior levels must get some part of remuneration. Third, if they are basically from out of station, then we need to see that if they have been given accommodation in your premises or nearby, then that continues and some basic means are provided to them. So at least the two ends are being met. We also really seriously need to now look at medical insurances. Just covering on ESI may not be enough. We need to tie up with some good hospitals and look at medical insurances going forward. The new SOPs that have been created, a lot of training needs to be done there so that the staff are properly informed. I think the key factor now going forward will be multi-skilling. And I think multi-skilling must be encouraged a lot because you cannot have these very, very specialized jobs where people do not do anything else but only do a certain job that has been entrusted to them. We need to embrace good performers. So there's going to be, of course, survival of the fittest. The ratio to room staff will be decreasing. The salaries will get linked to your performances. So always we've had the salaries linked to the bonuses. This will surely get, and especially to the sales staff and the senior staff. And there, I think what we expect is that the corporates should expect some amount of cuts in the top heavy if the hotels are there. That's going to happen. So I think these were some of my issues that I just wanted to share with regard to people and associates. Over to you, Dilip.
Okay. Great. Finally, last but not the least, Suresh, you've always talked about, changing business models. Things are not going to be the way they've been done for. So quickly take us through that because I have one more question at least for all of you before we have to end. Go ahead, Suresh.
Thank you, Dilip. And can you hear me?
Yes, very clearly.
Thank you, Dilip, and thank you, Bhuvnesh. Words are very less to say more about what you have created is Festival of Learning on this platform. So let me just begin by saying, if you're last in the panel, you need to know how to last for 5 minutes. So Dilip, thank you for getting me the last. But I think what I'm trying to say here is that I think I'll quickly go through. I'm sure that we have time frames in mind. It is said that if there is no challenge, I would not like to be repetitive because I think so much has been said. So I have to find my new articulation to just say that last 5 minutes can last a little more interestingly. So I'm saying if there is no challenge, there is no change. So COVID-19 has provided a challenge which is unprecedented. Well, Rajiv had given a good overview of how the operations and how the industry conceptually will continue to run. Farhat also mentioned few points are saying technology will become a major issue. But I think I'll begin by saying let's accept the current situation. And in my mind, there is no reset to normal. I've been hearing these words of pause and reset. I think there's no reset to normal, as some changes that have already happened, which are inevitable, which are unavoidable. So let me just give you an example of saying high touch and high tech has already gone into no touch, but high tech continues to remain as an enabler. That's one. Now, nobody knows, and it is anybody's guess, that how long will this SMS last? Why I'm calling it an SMS is social distancing, mask, wearing a mask, and then using sanitizer. So this SMS in my mind, I don't know how long will it last in our pattern. The second issue that I thought was it is imperative, therefore, that in the current scenario, we opt for a growth mindset versus fixed mindset. Because somewhere you need to begin this new journey. We must therefore develop an ability to deal with new normal, where anything can come from anywhere and re-navigate the world we live in. That is unpredictability of repeat wave, whether it's V-shape, is Y-shape, I have no clue. But I think we need to reimagine the entire thing and be ready. Closing of borders without any notice can continue to happen. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Quarantine directives, you don't know. And you do not know if your hotel or your enterprise is located within containment zones, which can be announced anytime. And there is no, right now, relief that you can see. You are now clocking the highest number in the world on everyday basis. So that's another thing. I think what we need to do now is to be more conservative in our approach on capital investments and also be sensitive to cost in general and continue to keep looking at manpower numbers. I'm not getting into detailing because the world knows exactly. You need to grow your revenue, you need to control your costs. And there are HLP and salary wages benefit are the two controllable areas of a larger proportion that you can always look at. So I'm not getting into this. So I think in this new normal, we need to be more adaptable, must work on flexible structures and business models, which can scale up and can scale down. So therefore, I think more and more services will become now to outsource agencies where it is easier for you to scale it up as and when the need arises and scale it down as and when the circumstances change. I think it is also true that this is an opportunity actually to work on zero-based budgeting. For years, these were words called in fashion. The fashionable words of zero-based budgeting, I think time has come, you have no escape. So let's go back on the drawing board and start looking at it. And I think we should now, as management, must be ready to provide quick solutions. So that is very, very important today, to look at what will happen and what are the variables. It is like saying, I'm in control of situation, but situation is out of control. So that's another way of looking at the business right now. I think time has come to realign ourselves from our past learnings, redefine our attitude, habits, and behaviors, since our new mindset will redefine our attitude in the market positioning and also survival of the business. I think these are a few things that I thought in my mind. But in this unprecedented and uncertain time, we need to strengthen our future by shifting towards localization. What they are saying is vocal for local. I think we are getting there. Collective collaboration, Mr. Bhandari talked about, with supply chain to bring in cost effectiveness, resilience, that your supplier, your vendor, everybody actually is in the same rhythm that you want them to be. Enhance capability and agilities in our decision making and adaptability to market situations, which are variable right now and nobody can predict. We need to continuously focus on digitalization and keep an eye on high-tech solutions, whether it is personalization like you mentioned, and I think Farhat said, maybe we need to create some kind of a tech-based personalization, which gives you a feeling of being looked after. I think continue to reflect on core hospitality, like Rajiv said, values and culture. You can't do without the core values that we began this business with. And appreciate available resources for the first time and focus on sustainability. I also must say, while remaining nimble-footed and flexible, let's hope we continue to build on traditional model of Eastern courtesies and Western efficiencies. We do not forget that. But there are a few buzzwords that I also want to not really comment. There are a few buzzwords that have become now fashionable to talk. It's called pent-up feeling. Second is revenge traveling. Now, who are you taking a revenge on? Yourself. So, are you fighting a virus? That's another. I think domestic market is now. It was always the mantra for success, but for the first time since the lockdown, so domestic market has suddenly come into prominence. So this was always there. I think you cater to always domestic market because your foreign business was now slowly coming down to about 30 to 40%. But the only fear I have or apprehension, and this domestic market, the 60% of our business in business rail used to be corporate. Now with this work from home culture, the world has actually seen how to save cost, how to bring these platforms that Bhuvnesh has already shown to the world. I think all these areas continue to remain now in focus, and I think we should be sensitive to that. I'm also saying, I started with SMS, now I'm saying WhatsApp will become WhatsApp. I think these are two things that I want to say. SMS is save yourself from protecting yourself, to WhatsApp is a conversation that we are having. With those, I would only try to say that I think the trilogy of customer, guest, and employees, I think they all have to have trust and confidence. Let's build trust and confidence, and let's look forward very optimistically to a growth which we are not aware of. Thank you so much.
Wise words, and thank you so much. Gentlemen, actually, just in your first responses, you answered all the questions. That's also because we're running out of time. But I will ask one question to Rajiv Kaul, if I may, with the permission of the rest of the panelists, simply because it's a very interesting insight. The idea is that your own experiences as leaders in the past, and not experiences through crises like a 2611 or 9/11, it's in your own business. In that, when I think of Rajiv's last 3-4 years with Leela, and imagine the challenges where every day you thought, my company is gone, my brand's gone, what's going to happen to people, what's going to happen. So just share something with us on that, Rajiv, and any lessons from that to people, because that's not been easy for you. And singularly, I think you are responsible for building that brand. I think the award for Leela Udaipur is a reflection of your work really more than anybody else. But that journey was very interesting to hear. I'm sure our audience and fellow panelists want a quick insight. We've got 3 or 4 minutes for you to talk about that. You're muted. You're muted. Yes.
Muted.
So thank you for that indulgence, Dilip. Yes, I spent about, or rather we spent, the whole team spent about 5 years on a razor's edge, So, and our obituary was written several times. We read so many obituaries, but I think the lesson there really is that adversity can be a great blessing. When you have your backs to the wall, it is amazing what you can achieve. Because in our case, and I'm just indulging a little bit in the story, that it was very, it would have been heartbreaking for us to lose these magnificent hotels that are spectacular hotels that our owners had created for us, or we had together created. And every 6 months there was a public auction that was announced in the newspapers that for the Leela Palace New Delhi or the Leela Palace Chennai, etc. And we knew that the brand would be greatly weakened if it did not have these assets, if the Leela flag was not on these buildings. So we we thought of something, but there's something else which is coming to my mind. I was reading a McKinsey report recently, and they said something extremely valuable. They said that the task of a leader today is to help the team transition from the room called fear to the room called hope. And I think that's really pretty much captures this. That is because that's the journey that we made. We asked ourselves that if the management's task was that the assets of the hotel and the brand of the hotel brand should remain united, what needs to be done? And it was very clear that what needs to be done is that you have to rapidly, accelerated mode, you have to elevate the brand equity of Leela hotels. So, fortunately for us, the Oberoi hotels had shown us the way. They had already got the best hotel award. They'd got the best brand award. So, I mean, that's founded on a bedrock of 50 years of excellence. We had 5 years to do it. So we were in a rapid mode. But we said this is it what needs to be done. And so the strategy was that you have to obsess with quality. It's not that you're passionate about quality, no. You will obsess with quality. You will obsess with, because we only have hotels in India, while the rest of the brands that you're competing with, and you're competing with the world's greatest brands, they have touch points across the globe. So you've got to have your guest, who's such a passionate fan, that his echo will resonate louder than the other brand fans. And the second task which was something which some of us took on, that how do we insulate the guest experience from all the financial troubles that we have on our balance sheet. So I think we were very fortunate that the owners, the Nair family, and also the lenders, had that maturity and that support, that they helped us to completely insulate the guest experience from all these terrible problems that we were facing. And then we went about, along with the team, and I'm very proud of the fact that our 4,000 persons team was spectacularly rose to the occasion. We were last year, Dilip said that the Leela Palace Udaipur was honored as the #1 hotel in the world. And this year we received, the Leela Palaces Hotels and Resorts was honored as the #1 brand in the world. So it was fascinating. And I'm here to just share with you that, out of adversity, a diamond, what is that quotation, that a diamond is nothing but carbon under intense pressure.
Indeed.
So this is really an opportunity for everybody here, that it is how you choose to utilize this opportunity, because there is amazing amount of potential that rests within our team, within ourselves. There are dearth of latent opportunities, which it can all be achieved if you are really determined. It's all about having the determination.
Okay, Rajiv, we're going to run out of time, so thank you for that. One rapid fire question before we finish, Bhuvnesh. Each one of you has to give us a quarter in the future where you think business of our industry is back to 2019 levels. So, and please look at Indian financial year quarter when you give your response. I'm going to quickly rapid fire to each of you. Let's start with Rahul, Pandit. Which quarter in the future will our industry be back to 2019 levels? Quick answer.
I would say more. Yeah, quick. I think we are going to see a massive yield compression for the next 4 years. Leisure is going to be a silver lining. Otherwise, if I see the industry on an aggregate, it's 2 years to recover occupancy, another 2 years to recover pricing, and year 5 for our rates. Having said that, the next 4 years are not going to see any new supply injection. So the advantage is that when we come back, every year we add 5%. So effectively the next cycle is going to have a 20% upwards tailwind
Excellent. So
riding
I should
under
have
it.
asked the professor the question last because he would have summarized well. Okay, which quarter, Shantha de Silva, do you think the industry will be back to 2019 levels?
Quarter two,
2024. Suresh Kumar, what about you?
3.5 years to 4 years.
3.5 to 4 years. Farhat? Your voice, you're muted.
Quarter 4 of 2022.
Quarter 4, 2022. Anil Bhandari?
Third quarter of
Unmute yourself,
2024.
okay.
Last quarter of 2024. Viru?
Okay. Oh,
Sorry, say that again.
Muted.
Second quarter of 2022.
Rajiv Kaul?
A little bit more positive.
Quarter 3, 2023.
Okay, I mean, if you do a quick average, we're
Dilip,
talking
Dilip,
about
what about you?
less.
Dilip, what about you, Dilip?
I would actually say it will take at least 2 years for the first of the leisure big resorts to come back to 2019 levels. The big business hotels will take more time. But if I were to average everybody, indeed, it is anywhere between 2 to 3 years to a full recovery to 2019 levels. We don't have the time to discuss green shoots and which segments will recover faster. But gentlemen, thank you for your time again. I wish we had more time to share some more views with our audience, but I'm sure Bhuvnesh is going to set up many more such panels for us to talk about. Thank you all, and back to you, Bhuvnesh.
So you guys have been a great support, and I don't need to reiterate that again and again. Each one of you, this industry has always looked up to you, will always look up to you. Keep guiding them, keep mentoring them, keep holding them tight, and we shall get you back every now and then, soon and again. And Shantha, we will keep getting you on the air from Sydney, right? Or whatever you call them these days. You have these, what do you have? These fiber optics, sorry. So not on the air anymore. And Dilip, thanks for this. You've been a wonderful moderator. And thank you for ISH and Dilip Puri for driving the nominations and awards for us. Suresh, you've been a great partner. Rajiv sir, look up to you. You've been a brilliant hotelier. You've brought in some of the best hotels this country has yet to see. Rahul, I don't need to add to what Dilip has said. मतलब अब मैं तुमसे कभी एडवाइस नहीं लूंगा, पूरी गुगली दे दोगे, मैं समझने किसी और से जाऊंगा, right? Anil sir, thank you for अपना हाथ बनाए रखना. You've been a mentor to us. Farhat, always the genial giant, right? A gentleman. And Veer, the lesser said the better. Royalty every inch. I mean, awesome friend and well-wisher. Thank you again, everybody. Wonderful show. Thank you for making it special.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.